Hi, I'm Zeke, and today I'm going to show you a game that I played the King's Pawn opening. So, here's how the King's Pawn opening works. E4, E5. It's called an E4, E5 opening. Now, I'm not sure what this is called, but they moved their Queen's Pawn to D4. So if you move your knight to E6 and they push, here's a little tactic to trap and win the knight. If the knight comes here, push this pawn, and the knight has no safe squares. Not here, here, here. No safe squares. And also, it cannot take anything. So the reason why this or this is best, because at least you'll be able to take the pawn after it captures your knight. So I moved here, and the bishop took it. Black's bishop goes to c5, and white's bishop goes to c4. Black's pawn goes to d6, and white's knight goes to a3. Now, I'm not sure why it didn't go to e2, because that's holding the center a little bit more with this square and this square, but it decided to hold this square only. Oh, and this square. And where it came from, of course. So, I do not recommend moving your knight to the outside. It doesn't control that many squares, as it could control more squares in the center of the board. Okay, black knight goes to f6, and white pushes the f pawn. Now, this is usually not what you want to do before you castle, but the knight is blocking the queen from coming in here. Because what you would do is close to mate. So you do not want to move your f pawn before you castle. Because after here, king moves, that is mate. Because your bishop's here. There are also interpositions, not by the knight, but there's an interposition there. It's your best move. So black castles. White moves an other knight to the outside. I would recommend moving it here, controlling a lot more squares in the center. Now, the only reason that black moves his knight to h5 is because it doesn't have any other safe options and it wants to go here. Check. Or it can also go here, but the bishop's there, so we have to wait to get rid of that. Pawn comes down to b4, and the bishop goes to e6. There were no other squares for it to go besides b6. Then push their f pawn again. Now here we can take. Now, here's what I wanted them to do. I wanted him to do that. And then black can check. And after king moves, then we can check again, because our bishop's protecting here. But that only works if the queen does not take the knight. Also, that puts pressure on the h pawn down by the king. The computer says it's a blunder, but I think it's an okay move. Because this is really close to checkmate. If you have this square, it would be checkmate. So the queen did take it. But the downside of this is now black has won the rook. The best move for the rook is to go here so that you can recapture the rook. But here, and it just loses it for free. Pawn pushes, black takes the other pawn. Now, this is a blunder because you can just take it here. If the queen was here, it would be threatening mate and your bishop. So if the queen was here, it would be a really good move. But since the bishop is there, it is not a good move. But since the queen is not here, it is not a good move. So pawn just takes. And another move you can do is just take the pawn here. And so queen checks, and black queen interposes right here. White's queen takes the bishop on e4, and now black took the free pawn. Now there are two passed pawns. Well, not exactly passed. I'm not sure what to call them because they're blocking each other. Now the knight is attacking here. So you check. The best move here is to go here, but you still, well, if you do that, you lose the bishop and the rook. So it's not very good. So the king just moved and only lost a rook. Check. Black moves to h8, and now pawn pushes, threatening mate here. This is the only logical move because if you take here, it's mate. If you check, you still can't take this pawn because of the bishop and because of mate. And this is protected by the bishop. Black thought about this for a little bit. And now the queen can either trade or it can check, take, or it can check, check, take, and take, and take. That loses a pawn. So white actually decided to go to d7. And now black checked on g2, and white moved. Black checked again, white moved. Black checked again, protected by the pawn and the bishop. And moves there. Now we take this pawn. We could have taken this pawn a lot earlier, but we did move his king to the center, which is a nice thing to have the opponent's king. Then we check again, and he moves. Now black is attacking the queen. Doesn't have very many options. Can go here, can go here, or here. But not very many. So white's queen decides to go to e7, and now it is threatening check. But the queen has here. So if the queen moves, and now it's almost mate. If we go there, interpose, because that's the only legal move, then takes the rook. Almost mate. So king moves, and now black checks, removing the defender of right here. Move. Now we can go here. It's safe. But you lost a rook. We lost a rook. Because now you pinned your own pawn. Black pinned his own pawn. So now the pawn cannot take here. So it's splitting the king and the rook. So white just finds that move, e6. And now the reason that black cannot go to h8 is because then the queen will come in here, and after move takes, and yeah, black is down a rook. So white did check. Oh, so after black moves to g7, there is no threat. White cannot check. It's impossible to check. It's white. Took the rook, and now black is checking in. Now we're protecting the square, 1, and attacking the bishop, 2. But just takes the free pawn. So we interpose here. We can have a trade. It's okay. Because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 squares to mate, and our bishop is a dark bishop. And they have a light bishop, so our bishop can hold the queen square. Also, we have this pawn to push down the board. So white checks, d3. Now, white wants us to move here and then win the queen. But you can also go here, which does lose a pawn, but still, they traded, and they can still win a pawn here. Always. But now they can't do it. So bishop protects. Now our bishop comes to f4, and now they're going for a queen. I am actually willing to trade this rook for the knight, even if I have to get rid of it. Like, trade it for the queen, because we have 1, 2, 3 passed pawns. So there, and now black's king moves to f5, and the reason for this is, well, we need to push this pawn because the bishop is right now holding the queenie square right there, so we need to push this pawn to block the bishop. The knight takes on f7, and pawn pushes. White checks, and after black moves to f6, it is impossible to check again, because this is white square bishop and it's in a dark color, and this this knight is being attacked by the king. So bishop can't come here to stop it, so we just queen. And after knight moves, it'll take 3 moves for knight to check you again. 1, 2, and well, not that series, but I just know that it will take 3 moves. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so just a good thing to know if you're diagonal from a knight and there's 1 square between you, then it will take 3 moves for the knight to check you again. Here, 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 and check. So black queens. Now white is attacking the pawn. Black checks and splits the knight, and also known as fork, and attacks the knight. So we're splitting the king and the knight. King moves to b5, and white now takes the knight. We are now even, except for black's up queen. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. White has a pawn majority on the queen side, but black has a huge material advantage and can actually, that's not winning the bishop completely. Pawn pushes, and now we check here, because if we checked here, then the pawn would push. So check, move, and now we're going to race for another queen. Got it. Now white is 1 move away from queening. So black checks, white moves. Now, if you have 2 queens, one thing you should know is you can trade them for the opponent's pieces, even if it's less, because you still have another queen. And if you have enough power to create another queen, then you can actually trade for both queens. So black did just that. Takes, takes. And now, as you can see, the bishop is nicely holding this row, and now black is just going to walk up and get a queen. So black starts with h5 and white pushes, but there's no sense in pushing. And you can actually trade the bishop for the pawn if it pushes. So it takes, takes, because you are 2 moves away and they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 moves away. So you're going to queen first. White queens, black queens, and now goes to d5. White pushes. You really want him to get rid of the pawn, but you cannot take it now because king takes, it'll be a draw. Black's way up, so you don't want to draw. So white moves to a6, and now the thing that you can do here is do this. This is a very clever move because queen is holding this row, and the king can only go here to protect the pawn, and now your king can move in, holding these squares. And now the queen has this square, so the king's only 2 moves are here and here, which wins the pawn. Black moves to b5, and white moves to b5, and black takes the pawn in a7. And now we're just going to copycat the king until we get him in a corner with 2 moves. And now he has 2 moves. And now black just races his king over and checkmates. Thank you for watching.